morning, everyone. This week in Canada, just this past week, there have been a whole lot of scandals that have come to light. And I don't even know if this covers all of them. Anyway, here is Matt Morris's list of this week in Canada. He says, Telford's hubby got 84 million. Gellibo's company got 20 million. PMJT, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, vacationed while Canada was in crisis. 640,000 ventilators got delivered. We still hasn't paid back 33 million. Actually, I think that's 8 million. TAM is still lost. And now Morneau is preparing to take the fall. Why does anyone trust Justin Trudeau, Butts, and Telford? It's a good question. It's a valid question. Pierre Poliievre doesn't trust any of them. And he says Trudeau would have fired Morneau weeks ago for taking a $41,000 illegal vacation from a group he gave government grants. But then he would have to fire himself for the same thing. Now Team Trudeau is claiming that the forthcoming firing is about a policy fight. There is no policy fight. The two ethical bandits agree on dangerously permanent deficits to finance government takeover of the economy. Team Trudeau is leading us straight into a massive debt crisis that will cost people their jobs, homes, and livelihoods and leave decades of social and economic pain. Firing Morneau won't change that. We must fire Trudeau. Yeah. Yep. Here's Jim McLean, and he says, it's awesome to watch this very well orchestrated dance, the end result of which will be Morneau quitting on principle. Trudeau-Morneau clash over green plans, soaring deficit via Globe and Mail. Now, I don't have a Globe and Mail membership or subscription anymore, and there's a bunch of the same article reprinted. MSN's got a printing, CBC or Global National's got a printing with slight differences. We're going to look at the Global National, but I think that these tweets with their opinions are worth noting, right? Everybody kind of feels the same way. Morneau's going to take the fall for this. They're meeting today. Trudeau and Morneau are meeting today, and either cabinet shuffle or maybe Morneau resigns and whatever. But fundamentally, I don't know that this will be good enough, right? Like last time there was a crisis, SNC led to Michael Wernick leaving, Justin Butts, Gerald Butts, the advisor to the Prime Minister, exiting the formal office that he had, that the title, I guess, the secretary to the Prime Minister, and now he just kind of advises Trudeau in his spare time while also being, CEO of random other things. So that's interesting to note that the exit was public, but not really real. Like he's still involved, right? So it's they're friends. They talk a lot. I don't know every day, but they talk a lot according to interviews I'd seen with Butts. So I don't know that if Morneau is going to be what Butts was, if he's going to advise. Although all of the articles talk about how insulted and off guard he was caught by Carney being involved, and Carney's got a role as well as advisor to the PM, so that's presumably not free. He's also got responsibilities at the UN and other places. I think something to do with the World Bank or the UK Bank, but I'm not 100% sure. But he's got other responsibilities that require him to talk to other world leaders. So like, again, globalist versus nationalist. That's the new kind of paradigm. Never mind. Liberal versus conservative. It's do you want global governance or do you want nationalistic governance? Because the rest of it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's liberal local or liberal global. But because the globalists are going to do what they're going to do, and they're going to sell it to you however they have to until they don't have to sell it to you anymore. There's a reason the UK left the EU, right? There's a reason Brexit happened. It's because the local governance was so out of touch, or was not able to communicate itself effectively in the EU Parliament, right? And the UK was getting the short end of the stick, according to their citizens. And that's what initiated Brexit. It's incredible, really. I mean, like from Brexit to now, what's happened and what's still happening. Look at what's happening in the United Kingdom. Like if you don't think that's coming here in short order, you are wrong. I thought maybe we could stave it off because of our geographical distance from the other continent, but it doesn't seem to matter. They're landing flights. People are flying into the US and just walking into Canada. I mean, we're certainly not showing the numbers that the UK are, but we're doing exactly the same thing. So when our governments behave the same way on illegal migrants, people who are breaking the law to come into the country, and I know there are people who say you can't be breaking the law if you're claiming refugee status. That's not true. There is a clear right way to claim refugee status and a wrong way, and they are doing it the wrong way on purpose, and the government is turning a blind eye to their illegal behavior, period. Sorry. If you want it different, the laws have to change. Currently, those are the laws. So it's very, very interesting. All of this stuff, watching the lockstep and blah, blah, blah of the West with regards to policy, you have to question it. Okay, I'm on a big, long diatribe, and I apologize. We've gone a long way from my intention here. Here is Marissa, and she says, trouble in liberal paradise. Morneau's resistance to expensive environmental initiatives reflect his roots in Bay Street, Toronto's financial center, and a view held among right-leaning liberals that deficits are out of control. This is not her saying this. This is a quote from the article. I just thought it was a good quote to highlight. It says, and Mark Strahl, and he's an MP, and he says he's a member of Parliament for Chilliwack, Hope, BC. He says, this is so obviously false and a transparent attempt to change the We Scandal channel. The media should be ashamed of themselves for being so easily used by the Prime Minister's office. These guys are two peas in a pod who have always shared the same reckless fiscal philosophy. Here's the article, Global News. It says Trudeau Morneau clashing over green initiatives and coronavirus spending. Sources. Now, always be wary of anonymous sources. There are no less than 5 anonymous sources in this article. That's incredible. And so, essentially, I say this article is basically made up. To have a conflict, you need 2 people. You need 2 different points of view, and you need the point of view from both of these people. Either the press is making up both sides, or they're being fed both sides. Both are concerning, because if you're in politics, you have press people that you send press releases and whatever to. I had a list of journalists that I would send press releases to because you want to get your press release out, right? And so when you have news to give, you send the same thing, whether it's press release or just, hey, heads up, this is what the hubbub is, off the record, of course, or whatever. And then articles like this happen. Not to say it's not true, but it's certainly slanted. So who are these 5 people? Why are they anonymous? How close are they to the situation? Do I think they're wrong or right? I don't know. I'm not sure. I guess we'll see in the coming days, won't we? If later on today Morneau is fired, well, they were right. Here's the article. A deepening rift between Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and his finance minister about coronavirus spending is also fueled by disagreements over the scope and scale of proposed green initiatives, 3 sources familiar with the matter said. Trudeau and Finance Minister Bill Morneau are scheduled to meet on Monday in a bid to sort out their differences, said a 4th source aware of the meeting. The sources requested anonymity given the sensitivity of the situation. Morneau and his team have pushed back against other cabinet ministers about how much funding was needed, including to what extent the recovery could be helped by investing in environmental projects. The people added. The people. The anonymous sources. Trudeau, who campaigned on a platform to tackle climate change, believes, okay, here's where they're setting up the one side of the argument. This is what Trudeau believes and what Morneau does not believe, presumably according to this. Trudeau, who campaigned on a platform to tackle climate change, believes the 2021 budget should have an ambitious environmental element to start weaning the heavily oil-dependent economy off fossil fuels, and has recently hired former Bank of England Governor Mark Carney as an informal advisor, aides say. Okay, so that's the one side. The appointment, coupled with a Globe and Mail report that Trudeau and Morneau have clashed over the amount of money Ottawa is spending, this is the other side, to combat the coronavirus, led to speculation about the future of the finance minister. Morneau, 57, has been in the job since the Liberals took power in late 2015. Asked for a reaction to the Reuters reporting, Trudeau spokesman Cameron Ahmed noted the Prime Minister issued a statement on Tuesday saying he had, quote, full confidence in Morneau, who confidence says alarmed by the ballooning budget deficits. Okay, so too much spending for coronavirus, ballooning budget deficits. Morneau's been in charge. Morneau's been the finance minister the whole time. So if he's worried about ballooning deficits now, it's $300 billion too late. Back to this. Environment Minister Jonathan Wilkinson, along with Infrastructure Minister Catherine McKenna, who is a former Environment Minister, have met with top civil servants to discuss options that could involve billions of dollars in extra spending, said one of the 3 sources familiar with the matter. Heritage Minister Stephen Guelph, a lifelong green activist, also attended the meetings. Morneau's resistance to expensive environmental initiatives reflects his roots in Bay Street, Toronto's financial center, and a view held among right-leaning liberals that deficits are out of control. See how they're tying the environmental stuff, so his resistance to expensive environmental initiatives and the right-leaning liberals, the deficits are out of control, right? So he doesn't want to spend money on environmental stuff, and he agrees with those right-wing liberals, right? They're trying to do to him, they're trying to make him an other. They're trying to say, you're not like him, you're not like a right-leaning liberal, you want the environment stuff. Not like that awful Bill Morneau. The press is setting up the 2 sides and giving you a role almost, right? Like if you believe greening the economy, Morneau's resistance to expensive environmental initiatives is bad, and that right-leaning liberals are bad, then you're gonna agree with the article, right? And anyway, the article goes on. The idea of greening the economy just by spending money on every project you have in front of you is not really serious, said a fifth source sympathetic to Morneau's position. Right? I don't know. It's interesting. All the positioning here is really interesting. Possible budget measures range from investment to help provinces reduce their carbon footprint. I love how specific that is. We're going to help them reduce their carbon footprint. Back to boosting research into clean technology. Clean technology? What does that mean? And encouraging the construction of efficient buildings. That's the only measurable thing they've said in those three things. I scroll down. Canada's budget deficit is forecast to hit $343.2 billion, the largest shortfall since the Second World War this fiscal year. Total coronavirus support is nearly 14% of gross domestic product. And I wanted to know how much Canada spent on the Second World War, so I Googled it. Canada, World War II spending. How much money did Canada spend on World War II? It was $10 billion. But in today's dollars, that's $100 billion. And we spent $343 billion on... The Second World War was a long campaign. It was over a few years, right? And so we spent $343.2 billion in a couple of months. That seems like a lot. And I think that it's funny that they say since the Second World War. I think that if you include the Second World War, I don't think we've spent more money on a single thing ever. I could be wrong. But I can't imagine something being more expensive than the Second World War since the Second World War or before the Second World War. So this is a lot of money. And has it been worth it? I don't know. Ask Sweden. Right? Back to this. Problems between a finance minister and colleagues with ambitious and expensive proposals are not unusual. Every single department in government that spends money ends up butting heads with finance, said the fifth source. They got to get all five in there. Give us something, man. If Morneau takes the fall for this, to give a short idea of what I think about this. If Morneau takes the fall, I don't think it'll be enough. I think we continues to be a pain in Trudeau's side. I don't know that it brings down the government. I don't know that it does. NDP, I haven't heard a thing from Jagmeet Singh about it. I haven't heard anything from Jagmeet Singh. I've heard a lot from Charlie Angus, but I haven't heard anything from Jagmeet. So, okay, moving on. Here is, there's been a CRA hack, and about 5,000 accounts were included in this breach. Here is CBC. I think this is funny that she's Australian. Here we go.
We have been seeing reports online from people who have indeed been targeted in this, saying that they received an email telling them that something in their account had changed, like their contact details or their direct deposit information. And when they logged in, many of them found that someone had applied for the Canada Emergency Response benefit from their account. Now, these people weren't applying for it themselves, and it's not clear how much money may have been stolen in this instance. I spoke to a CRA spokesman. He couldn't give me a number there, but they did issue a statement, and in that they said that
so people have been hacked and they applied for the benefit. I wonder if they're going to be on the hook for paying taxes on that in next year. So here's the CBC article about it. CRA shuts down online services after thousands of accounts breached in cyber attacks. The Canada Revenue Agency has temporarily shut down its online services after the agency confirmed it was recently hit by 2 cyber attacks that compromised thousands of accounts linked to its services. While the breaches have been contained, services connected to my account, my business account, and represent a client on the CRA website have been disabled as an additional safety measure. The shutdown means that anyone attempting to apply for emergency COVID-19 benefits, such as the Canada Emergency Response Benefit and the Canada Emergency Student Benefit, will be unable to do so until further notice. The agency said Saturday that as of August 14th, about 5,500 accounts have been affected by the separate attacks. Scroll down. The admission came after repeated inquiries from CBC News after CBC noticed a pattern of similar hacks occurring over the past 2 weeks. Earlier this month, Canadians began reporting online that email addresses associated with their CRA accounts had been changed and that their direct deposit information was altered and that the CERB curb payments had been issued in their name even though they had not applied for the COVID-19 benefit. Most reported that they were first alerted to the suspicious activity after receiving legitimate emails from the CRA confirming their email addresses had been discontinued. So that's concerning, right? Isn't that wild? Man, yeah. Here's CFL, and it looks like the CFL may cancel their season. They rely on ticket sales mainly, and the government refused a $30 million loan to do a hub style, like a hub city with tournament style to do the games that way. So yeah, that won't be happening, looks like, this year, unless, well, the guy says unless Trudeau changes his mind today. So we may be hearing about the CFL canceling their season tomorrow. Here's an interesting one that I've been kind of talking about recently. It says, Holly Doan, this is Blacklock's reporter, and she says, Cabinet will scale up drug injection sites with Controlled Drugs and Substance Act amendment, says regulatory notice on GovCan Health. Follows protests in 2 of 4 provinces that legally distribute heroin, fentanyl, and crystal meth. So these guys are saying that thousands will die if safe injection sites close. Save lives, keep in sight, right? And in Guelph, this was posted July 14th. It says overdose deaths double in Guelph compared to 2019. We've had a safe injection site, and I think safe injections are an oxymoron. It's not safe to inject like poison into your blood, right? Like, so this idea that making it safe somehow by having somebody there supervise you makes it safe. It's not safe. It's not safe to do that. And there are a lot of places in the States that have a better outcome, a better result for the people who are looking for help when they tie their help to stopping the use of drugs. When you facilitate drugs, and this is facilitating drugs, you end up with more people dying. It looks like. That's what the data looks like, it says. So I don't understand why we're ignoring the data and going and doubling down on safe injection sites, claiming something that flies in the face of the data that we're seeing, that I'm seeing anyway. When you have a safe injection site, looks like deaths increase. So what a strange thing to fight for. Like, weird. How tone deaf. Dan McTeague, this is Gas Price Wizard, he says, just learned that Trudeau will not match funds raised for Lebanon relief if given to, say, Red Cross Canada. Incredibly, the Liberal pledge to match up to $25 million is conditional on your pledge being donated to the Humanitarian Coalition's members agency only. Hashtag this is wrong. I feel like this is something Amazing Polly should look into. Who are the Humanitarian Coalition members agencies? Why isn't Red Cross included? And what's with this matching thing? What's going on there? I don't... This is a small little... I feel like this deserves a larger look at, but I've got other things on my plate that I'm trying to get done. And it every time I go to work on it, it gets bigger. So I'm like, oh man. But it all has to get told. It all has to be put out there in a way that's responsible. So I'm working on it slowly. I'll put it out as soon as it's ready. And then maybe I'll look into this if I've got time and if people are interested. I feel like there's something here. Like, it's something just right under the surface. It won't take much. Just rub off the grime there and then have a look. I think that's all it'll take. Who is in this coalition? Whose ministers, sisters or brothers or husbands or wives or daughters or sons or whatever's work at some of these connected companies? I'm sure there's something there. I'm interested. I don't know, but I'm interested. Okay. Maybe we'll look at that soon. It says 5 BC First Nations say federal decision on salmon fishing is proof of systemic racism. Proof of systemic racism. He says he feels sports and commercial troll fishers are given more rights to fish waters off the west coast of Vancouver than First Nations. He says the latest decision to shut First Nation fisheries out of an opportunity to catch more Chinook salmon this year shows systemic racism is alive and well with the Federal Fisheries Department. I don't know that that's systemic racism, and I don't know that your feelings on who gets more whatever proves systemic racism. I think that this is lazy reporting by the National Post, but that's not surprising. Does this prove systemic racism? How about this? Is this systemic racism? What would you do in this situation? This is an adult temper tantrum, by the way, so trigger warning if you need that. But this is an adult having a full-blown 3-year-old temper tantrum in a Tim Hortons in Toronto, Canada. Yeah, here we go.
Call the police! Call the police! Call the police! You're racist and you're wasting my time. Call the police! Black Lives Matter! Call the police! I'm not gonna hit anybody. Shut the fuck up, you guys. Call the police, bitch! Make my fucking coffee. You guys fucking think this is a joke. Oh yeah, you're racist! So I'll make my own coffee, you fucking bitch! I'll make my own fucking coffee! Fucking cunt! Oh!
This is better? This is what people want? This is how people want society to be? How about this? Man in custody after machete attack in Moncton. In Moncton. The other machete attack was in Red Deer, Alberta. Machete attack? What is happening? What is happening? At what point can you call your government out for not looking after your best interests? At what point is it clear that the pantomime dance that the finance minister and the prime minister are doing is meant to distract from the many, many scandals, not least of which is people coming to our country who do not want the best for Canadians? It's very, very concerning. A doctor was hacked to death and bludgeoned with a hammer in Canada with a machete. And it was previously known the guy was from Sudan, and there was, I believe that was the case, and there was history between the doctor and the guy. Is this a targeted attack too? Is this history as well? Are other people bringing their what is it? Their grudges from their old country to here, and they purchase a machete and walk into a fitness? Here it is. Man in custody after machete attack in Moncton. A 33-year-old man is in custody after a machete attack in Moncton on Saturday. Corporal Luke Basque said Kodiak RCMP were called to Ivan Rand Drive near Good Life Fitness around 4:30 p.m. When they arrived, they found a 47-year-old man with minor injuries from a machete, he said. RCMP arrested a 33-year-old suspect. He appeared in court Sunday morning via tele-remand. The individual will remain in custody until at least Wednesday, when he will face charges in Moncton court at 1:30 p.m. Basque said he wasn't aware of the extent of the victim's injuries. Isn't that interesting? I wonder why he wasn't aware of the extent of the victim's injuries. You'd think that would be a part of the police report, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it be responsible of a police officer to look at the injuries of the victim before addressing the media? How unbelievably convenient that the media just let him get away with this. Could you follow up, media? Could you say, when you do know the extent, can you let us know? That's an important part of the story. Who is the man who attacked with the machete? What was his name? Any information about him at all? No? Very interesting. That happens quite a lot in Canada, unless you're a specific race. It's very, very concerning what's happening in this country. And this is better? You want this? This is what people are fighting for? People to just be able to walk in and demand insane demands because hashtag Black Lives Matter? I don't think so. I don't think so. This is not appropriate. And the fact that government is just letting this off the hook, but have you seen the amount of people going to arrest people who aren't wearing masks? There was in Florida this morning. There was a woman, or there were multiple people arrested at a grocery store. The owner locked them in the grocery store and called the police because they weren't wearing masks, and then dozens of officers showed up to arrest them. Now that's not Canada, but that's the juxtaposition we're looking at. Officers in Canada are talking about we need to be diligent about racism, and they're ignoring stuff like this because racism. It's unbelievable what's happening, and people are letting it happen. They're incapable of even fighting back to it. It's like a washing machine. It's like a washing machine. If you articulate this is problematic, you get attacked. If you say this is not the intent of this, right? The intent of society is to be able to go into a Tim Hortons, order a coffee. If it's a little slow and you're in a rush, well then you might have to choose to leave. But if it's not a little slow, then you have to wait. You don't get behind the till and scream at people, Black Lives Matter, make my effing coffee. How crazy is that? Is this something that happened years ago? Like, did rampant white people walk behind the counter screaming "White Lives Matter" because their coffee took too long? This is not something that should be encouraged. Yet it is being encouraged. Why is everyone allowing this to be encouraged and not pointing out that it is completely insane, completely antisocial? Only crazy people act like that. That's what you tell your kids. This is not a reasonable way to solve your problems, kids. This is not a reasonable situation. It's not reasonable to blame all of your life's problems on the fact that racism exists in the world. I'm sorry, kids. This is not a rational response to your coffee being a little slow. It's not. That's what you should teach your kids. Unfortunately, these days, this person screaming Black Lives Matter and demanding coffee is seen as a hero, and the people who are working going, what can we even do? Because we can't do anything, because if we do anything, the whole coffee shop might be destroyed, right? Have you been watching Portland? Poland's another story. Anyway, but that's the situation we're at. If you go against this narrative, if you say anything outside of hashtag BLM, then you're a target. And again, I reference the violence of Antifa, the violence of the Black Lives Matter people in places like Portland in Western United States, etc. And I've seen that violence here in Canada as well. I was at the Bernier rallies in Hamilton. I've seen the protests in Guelph. They're not that different. And this is completely unacceptable. It's very, very concerning. Not just concerning that this person's doing it, but it's concerning that it's being encouraged instead of being pointed out for what it should be pointed out for, which is this behavior is insane and not acceptable in our society. And you need to at least be able to behave this well before being taken seriously. Like hashtag call the police, Black Lives Matter. Come on. Sorry. No. All right, that's enough out of me. Thanks for watching, everybody. Check out CanadaPoli.com, check out CanadaReport.co, and have a wonderful, wonderful